one node. That's what I mean, that's so awesome about InstaMAT, is that you can do so many things in the graph. You can do arithmetic, you can work with strings, you can work with meshes, point clouds, resource data, file IO data, whole scene graphs, and really do a lot of different things that you can't easily do in other applications. So just a quick example here. Say I want to add some text onto this node. I can just right click and spawn the text node, and it says hello InstaMAT. I can choose a different font. For instance, I could use this font. I can change the size, and it's what you would expect a procedural text node to be in, with alignment and TTF fonts that you could just drag into your graph. You could even expose the font as a parameter, and if you use that in Unreal Engine or somewhere else, you can bring your custom font and just assign it to it.
Wow.
And it would work. It's pretty crazy. And again, we can easily switch between grayscale and color. As I mentioned, most of the nodes that can do this. But what I want to show you quickly is just how you can work with strings. So say the user should be able to change that, and we could even blend it onto our background if you would want to do that. So I can take that gradient map output, and I'm going to use it as the background, and I'm going to plug it in like this so we can see it here on the cube just for the sake of it. All right. And another great feature is, sometimes you end up with something like this where you have to squeeze a node into some small gap.
Yeah.
So in InstaMAT, you can hit Command or Control and the right arrow, and I can shift my whole graph. Everything that's right of the mouse is going to move right. So I can even move things up. So if my mouse pointer is here and I want to move everything above this to the top, I can just use the up arrow key.
As soon as I figured out that feature, that was one of the biggest time savers for me. You don't have to select something and move it over anymore, or you don't have to, you can, and that's what we were talking about with like the widgets and things like that, like the color widgets and things like that. The fact that you don't have to pick and choose colors and move the mouse as much as you can, the fact that you can move things over, it's all part of that design experience.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to make it very easy. For instance, if we take a look at the levels node, it's also really beautiful, just that levels widget where you can easily control the inputs and the outputs and control exactly how it's going to look like, and where you have features like auto leveling it here using that magic button. You can pop out the widget and work with it as big and as focused as you want to work on it. There's a tremendous amount of time spent on making these things as awesome as possible. All right, but I wanted to explain something about those strings. So this is called Hello InstaMAT, right? But what if we want to make this so in a way that the user can say exactly, what this text says? So I can, again, right-click here and expose this as an input parameter, and it found a good location down here. Let's move it to the top. We don't have to use what it tells us. And now my graph actually has that input parameter, and I can say, hello stream. And now it's going to say hello stream. But, let's go back to InstaMAT. So I'm going to type InstaMAT here. All right, but what if, so I'm going to actually, let's make that, I can right click and I can demote that to a local variable. So now the user cannot change it, right? What we could do instead would be to just expose a part. So we have the text that says hello InstaMAT. What if I want to make that more user driven, but the user can only change his username? So I can right click here and do a replace. And you see there's a lot of features here for strings. There's a huge amount of time also spent on a whole string library where you have anything from, splitting a string, replacing a string, formatting a string, converting a number to a string, creating an array of strings, extracting one part of that array, doing something with it, which basically makes InstaMAT more of like a general, even the element graph becomes more of like a general purpose programming language, because the string modifications are at the heart of programming, really. It's so important. All right, so let's do a string replace here. So I'm inserting my node, and now we have the input connected. That's great. And I can say I'm going to search for InstaMAT, and then it's going to replace that token with stream. So you see it actually searched for that word and then replaced it. And now instead of exposing all of the sentence to the user, we could just actually expose that part here as a graph input. So now the user can enter, I can actually say that, let's call that username, right? So now we have a parameter where the user could enter his username. So I could say this is abstract is the username. So if I type in abstract into that parameter, it would do that stuff automatically. It's pretty crazy what you can do. And as I mentioned, there's more things you can do with strings, like you can split it into an array, and then my splitting token is a space, or it's a line break, and it would then split that string into, you see now you have an array and it has two entries, and from that array you can now get a string from that array. The first entry would be the hello, and the second one would be abstract. So if you think about what you can do with this stuff, it's pretty crazy if you have that kind of a programmer mindset. You know what this opens up the door for processing even a CSV file, right? Where you would split it into a line, and then you would split it into semicolons. And I don't know why you would want to do that, but if you want to build a pipeline around CSV files, you could probably do it now.
I was going to talk about how this makes this so much more scalable. I mean, that really is the heart of what we're trying to do here at InstaMAT, is make scalable workflows and scalability. So even if you have this ability to expose strings, I mean, we do have, like you mentioned, the command line version, but do we also have another way to tap into the InstaMAT technology to integrate this more into other pipelines and maybe take more advantage of those strings?
I mean, of course. I think the C++ SDK is a good thing here, right? You'll be able to easily take all of the graphs and then execute them in your own engine, in your own environment, and really build a lot of infrastructure around these graphs. And it's so easy. It takes a few lines of code to really take the SDK, load the library, and then load your package and execute. It's really just a few lines of code. Like, even if you don't know programming, I could probably explain to you how that works in detail. It's really that easy.
If you enjoyed this video, drop us a comment below and don't forget to subscribe. For the latest news about InstaMAT, please visit our website and follow us on Twitter. You can find all the links in the video description below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.